Kai's Titan mech is something fans have been asking for such a long time. Given how many mechs Kai gets, to the point where he piloted 2 within the same episode, it's kinda crazy he of all ninja hasn't gotten one yet. So after months of work, I'm excited to
71870, the twin Titan mechs, and of course it comes with the last 2 Titan mechs you need to complete your Ninja Titan mech collection, which is
Oh, so he did get a Titan mech, and Nia too. And they're really cool too, but this is now very awkward. This is weird. But if you can get past how awkward this is, then consider subscribing and liking the video for more content made with lots of love and hard work. It really does mean a lot. With that note, let's get right into it. I started off by sketching a lot to get a grasp for what a Kai Titan mech should feel like. I went back and forth a lot on what the silhouette should be. They all ended up having really broad shoulders, so I knew I wanted to keep that for sure. With somewhat of an idea of what I wanted, it was finally time to hit the bricks. I began by making a skeletal model to get the ball rolling. These red 12x3 Lego wedges connected by a Technic pin instantly clicked for me as a shape for the chest that needed to stay. However, what I didn't realize was how hard it would be to get them to stay. Putting a piece at this angle at such a critical point of the torso meant that it was always breaking. So I installed 1x2 Technic bricks at the bottom of the torso, put an axle in it, and then 2 1x4 Technic bricks and built them into the chest assemblies. After installing these, I found that the top area was still too easy to fall off, so I took these 1x2 plates with an underside pinhole and built them into the bottom of the chest modules so there were 2 points of connection. Now before I put these in, I realized that Titan mechs usually have shoulders that are fairly close together, meaning that the joint can be attached to a very sturdy and built up core. The shoulders I wanted needed to be all the way out, meaning on top of the fact that the mech already has a weird shape at the front that can't structurally support a shoulder, it also can't be attached into the core or it would look weird. So I built up a very complex frame, put in the ratchet joints for the arms, and reinforced it with the build. After all this, I was finally able to attach the chest modules and put in some finishing details to finish up the torso for now. Now the main aspect that made the Ninjago Titan mech line popular was legs. These provide the critical range of motion that this line is so famous for. The key is to have a large ratchet joint at the hip, then a thigh joint, which in my opinion is the single most important and underrated joint here that really brings these mechs to life. Going lower, you need a very strong knee joint and an ankle piston. I needed to make sure I made my own version of every single one of these if I wanted my mech to stand next to the others. Literally. Funny enough, I got a little too excited and built too fast for my first versions, and it ended up being way too disproportionate. So I took notes on how Cole's Titan had small thighs and then comically expanded at the shins, and decided that felt best for the design I wanted. I built these 2 modules that could attach for some rotation action by attaching it to the hip of the mech. I then took 3 of these Technic ball pieces and attached it to that assembly to make a knee joint later on. For the shin, I built this pretty straightforward core with some snot bricks and left out a gap, which will make sense in just a bit. Then made a giant shin guard. I connected these 2 modules and put that to the side for now because we needed to focus on the foot before we built any further. Looking back, Lloyd's Titan mech definitely has a more traditional shoe look, and Cole's Titan mech is more specialized with 2 primary toes sticking out. So I drew out a concept that leaned more towards a mechanical shoe vibe and started building a core pillar with some 2x1 Technic bricks filled in with rubber bushings preventing slippage, and then red pieces at the end. Then I smoothed out the back, largely thanks to this inverted 2x2 slope that came in clutch here. These side panels came in next, completing a foot that's giving major sneaker vibes. The last part involved taking 3 large Technic ball joint connectors and an angled Technic beam, putting an axle through it, and then some bracket elements on so we can attach the shin plate. That gap I left out earlier allowed the Technic beam to neatly fit in and house a ball jointed piston. So after putting in the side shin assemblies, I could finally attach the joint to the foot for a complete leg. However, there was a problem. It soon became apparent that every time I articulated the foot, the friction kept overpowering the shin and breaking it apart. I needed an efficient way to reinforce both sections together, and I spent so long trying to figure that out without compromising on how it looked, because I genuinely love the aesthetics here. I did not want to change that. I was so close to giving up when I decided to try something I was sure would not work at all. I put in a Technic pin on the beam to offer a second point of connection for the side plate. through some miracle, it actually ended up being strong enough to withstand even the most aggressive movements the ankle could possibly make. It was smooth sailing after, as I put in some black and gold pieces to make for a polished mechanical look in the knee, and the last part involved these cool metal flaps attached to the hip to cover up the ratchet joints. Now for arms, to maximize the range of motion, I needed one ratchet at the shoulder, one mid-shoulder rotation joint, preferably a double jointed elbow, and the wrist. The shoulders of all things probably came together in the most interesting way. It starts out with two Technic bricks facing opposite ways, then filled in with bricks, put an axle through for reinforcement, and covered it up with brackets so I could attach plates that made it even stronger and be built upon to add some classy but sharp curves that matched Kai's vibe. Next came the lower arm, which could rotate, followed up by a module that gave a secondary point of articulation. So now, after I built up the core of the forearm and beefed it up with white slopes and red streaks on the side, the elbow doesn't have to stop at that first point. The second joint ensures it can go a bit further. Finally came the hand, built around this Technic joint. One side is built up with a Technic brick, 2 fingers, and a bracket to attach some detail, and the other side has an open pin that's compatible with any previous Titan mech weapon. After attaching all that to the main body, there was still one small issue. We only had half a mech, and I most definitely did not have the parts to complete it, so I had to somehow document each part and order it. The method I chose to go about it was to build what I had digitally and turn that into a parts list and then order all the parts, which I didn't have the faintest clue on how to do. My friend Kalido Productions was a huge help in teaching me how to use the Mechabrick software and make a parts list from it. So even though progress was slow at first since I've never used this, eventually I got the hang of translating my build digitally, which let me export a list and order my parts with extreme accuracy, making sure we wasted no time or money. The pick-a-brick order was going to take at least 30 days to arrive since I had ordered some very specialized parts that aren't on their bestseller list. So in the meantime, I used these trans orange blades to build up some sick dual katanas as weapons for the mech. I also wanted a white and red base mech pilot Kai similar to Cole's white and orange scheme. There was literally nothing that matched what I wanted color wise other than Santa Claus, which wasn't the vibe we're going for, to put it nicely. So I grabbed Sora's Dragon Spinjitzu set, took the white and gold mask from the Sora figure and repainted the gold part red. I also grabbed an image of Mech Pilot Cole, recolored the torso, and printed it out at the right size so I could take this Dreams minifigure's torso and legs, switch his hands out, and stick it on. We now have a Mech Pilot Kai dual wielding 2 Sword of Fire elements from the crystallized wave that can be stored away when piloting the mech. For a villain figure, I took a Spectral Dragonian and Sir Fangar from Lego Chima and combined their parts to make this ice monster, which felt fitting to go against the Master of Fire. By this point, my parts had finally arrived, so it was time to build and finally finish this baby up. After building up the right side of the upper thigh, lower thigh, shin, ankle, upper shoulder, lower shoulder, elbow extender, forearm, and hand, I finally built a head with sleek gold blades flowing back and a white stud with a trans light blue tile in front of that to give this a very bright looking iris to put a unique twist but stay consistent with how these heads are usually done in the series. We had finally finished Kai's Titan mech. The 2 blades I built earlier was a choice I made to give this mech some cool unique poses, as the previous 2 had some unique accessories as well. So now when you put all 3 together, they all look even cooler together. You can also take Kai's blades and store them in the back, which can unlock a couple more looks if you want. It really helps that the color scheme was something I was balancing the whole build. I spent a lot of time carefully selecting when the white goes dominant, like on the bottom half of limbs, and how it should be more 50-50 near the hands or feet. Color blocking black and gold very carefully around the joints to define neat mechanical components, and making sure to add red accents wherever the white overpowered a little too much. Taking off back attachments, since I think that's cheating when talking about true dimensions of a build. Your mileage may vary on that. It's easier to see how much taller it is than Cole's Titan mech, and it definitely has a little bit of the chunkiness that Lloyd's has, making this the absolute largest Titan so far, which I didn't even intend to do, but ironically feels like the most Kai thing to happen, since of course he'd have the biggest Titan mech. Thank you so much for making it through the entire video. It really means a lot, and as usual, I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.